All right, so today we're diving deep into a passage I'm sure you know well.
Oh, yes.
Luke 17:11-19, the healing of the 10 lepers.
It's a classic.
But we're not going to rehash, the Sunday school version.
Right.
You guys already preach on that.
Exactly.
We want to go deeper.
Yeah.
We've been digging through tons of sermons analyses on this passage, trying to find, those hidden gems, those unexpected insights.
Yeah, the stuff that'll make your next sermon really stand out.
Exactly, like sermon illustrations, things that you can use.
Yeah.
And what's fascinating to me
What's that?
is how many pastors are taking this story
Yeah.
and really kind of flipping it on its head.
Right.
They're going beyond just the miracle itself. And they're asking, what does this story actually tell us about faith, gratitude,
Right.
even salvation?
Really thinking about the bigger picture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's start with that word sozo.
Okay.
That seems to come up everywhere.
Yeah.
You see it in every commentary on this passage.
It's all over the place.
And I think most pastors would agree that it means more than just physical healing.
Right. It's not just about the body.
Exactly.
It's about the whole person
Right.
being made whole, saved, restored.
Right. It's this multi-layered kind of thing.
It's a deep word.
But what I found really interesting is how many sermons connect that word, sozo, directly to the Samaritan leper's gratitude.
Oh, interesting.
It's not just that he was healed.
Right.
It's that his gratitude was a sign or maybe even a catalyst for a deeper transformation. So it's almost like gratitude isn't just a result of being made whole. It's actually a part of the process.
That's a good point. Yeah, I like that.
Right.
It's not just the end product, it's part of the journey.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And one pastor used this really cool analogy.
I love a good analogy.
I know, me too.
Yeah.
It was with the song I Need a Favor by Jelly Roll.
Okay, I've heard that one.
And he was basically arguing that we often approach God like the singer in the song. Only come around when we need something.
Right.
Just looking for a handout.
Exactly. But true sozo, true wholeness,
Yeah.
it comes from a place of recognizing and appreciating God's grace, even when we don't need anything specific.
When we're not in crisis mode.
Exactly. And that makes you think about the other 9 lepers, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
They got their healing.
They did.
But did they really experience sozo if they didn't come back to express gratitude?
That's the question, isn't it?
Right.
Were they just happy to be cured?
Yeah.
Or did they really understand the depth of what happened to them?
And that's something that a lot of the pastors were really wrestling with.
It's a tough one.
Yeah, one pastor even suggested that maybe the 9 represent those who settle for surface-level blessings.
Oh, interesting.
They miss out on that deeper transformation.
Yeah, they get the physical healing, but they don't get the heart change.
Right. They don't get that complete sozo.
Exactly.
So then the question becomes,
Yeah.
how do we cultivate that kind of gratitude?
That's a good question. The kind that leads to true sozo.
Yeah, the kind that changes us from the inside out.
Exactly. And a lot of the sermons talked about gratitude as a practice,
Like,
not just a feeling.
not just a fleeting emotion.
Right.
More like a discipline.
Exactly. It's like a spiritual muscle that you have to work out.
You got to train it.
Yeah.
You got to practice gratitude even when you don't feel like it.
And it's interesting how this ties back to the fact that the lepers were sent to the priests before they were fully healed.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
That was an act of faith, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It was an act of obedience, even though they couldn't see the full results yet.
They had to trust the process.
Right. And that's where gratitude comes in.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
It's about choosing to see the good, to acknowledge God's work.
Even when we don't have all the answers.
Exactly. Even when we don't fully understand what's happening.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to have faith.
And that reminds me of a sermon illustration.
Oh, I love...
Yeah, it really stuck with me.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
It was about Corrie giving thanks for fleas in a concentration camp.
Wow, that's powerful.
Right.
Talk about finding gratitude in difficult circumstances.
Exactly. It's about finding that gratitude even in the most difficult circumstances.
Yeah, that's a powerful example.
And it really challenges that idea that gratitude is dependent on our external circumstances.
Right. It's not about what's happening around us.
Right.
That's about what's happening inside of us.
Exactly. It's an internal choice.
It is.
It's a way of orienting ourselves towards God's presence,
Yeah.
even in the midst of suffering.
That's deep.
Right.
I like that.
Now, we can't talk about this passage without addressing
Yeah.
the elephant in the room.
Okay, what's that?
The fact that the one grateful leper was a Samaritan.
Oh, yeah, that's a big deal.
Right. And it's such a crucial detail because it kind of throws a wrench in the assumptions of Jesus's audience. Because Samaritans were like the ultimate outsiders.
Right, the Jews despised them. So for Jesus to single out a Samaritan...
It's huge.
Yeah, it's a statement.
And yet Jesus chooses this outsider
Uh-huh.
to be the model of true faith and gratitude.
It's like he's turning everything upside down.
Right?
Challenging the status quo.
And it's almost like Jesus is saying, look, true faith isn't bound by ethnicity or social status.
It's about the heart.
Right.
It's about where your heart is at.
Exactly.
That's power.
And it's such a powerful challenge for us today.
Especially in the church.
Right. Especially as we think about, inclusivity in our churches.
Yeah. Are we welcoming everyone?
Right.
Regardless of their background?
Exactly. Are we creating spaces where everyone feels welcomed and valued?
Good question.
Right. And the Samaritan leper story reminds us that God's grace extends to all.
To everyone, right.
No exceptions.
And that true gratitude can transcend any barrier.
That's beautiful.
Right.
I love that thought.
It's a powerful image.
It is. And it really, forces us to examine our own biases.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, are we quick to judge or dismiss people who are different from us? The Samaritan leper, he challenges us to see beyond those labels, and recognize the image of God in everyone.
In every single person?
Yeah.
And this whole idea of seeing is something that several pastors really focused on.
Oh, interesting.
Like the Samaritan leper saw his healing and responded accordingly.
He didn't just feel better and keep walking.
It wasn't just like an emotional response.
Yeah.
He actually perceived the change.
He saw it.
And turned back to Jesus.
Yeah, he took action.
Right.
It's a subtle thing.
Yeah.
But it's important.
It is.
One pastor even connected this to the idea of spiritual awareness. He was arguing that we kind of go through life on autopilot sometimes.
Yeah, just kind of going through the motions.
Exactly. And we miss those everyday miracles.
The
The little things.
The things that are right in front of us.
Right. But the Samaritan leper, because of his gratitude, he was tuned in.
To God's
presence.
He was paying attention.
Yeah, in a way that the others weren't.
It's like those Paul McCartney playing in the train station moments.
I love that analogy.
Right, we're so caught up in our own stuff.
Yeah, our routines and distractions.
That we don't even notice the extraordinary.
Right, we miss the magic.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is that this idea of seeing, it connects to the fact that Jesus healed the lepers from a distance.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
It's not like other healing stories where there's physical contact.
Where he touches them or something.
Right here, it's all about faith.
It's about believing even when you can't see it.
Exactly.
So the lepers had to take that step of faith.
Yeah.
That journey to the priests. Before they could fully experience the miracle.
They had to trust.
Right. They had to trust in God's power.
Even when they couldn't see the results.
And that's such a powerful metaphor.
For sure.
For our own faith journeys.
It is, isn't it?
Right? Because we're often called to walk in obedience.
Yeah.
Even when we don't understand the why or the how.
When it doesn't make sense.
Exactly. And that's where gratitude could be so helpful.
Yeah, how so?
Because it helps us to stay focused on God's faithfulness. Even when we're in the middle of the unknown.
Even when we're feeling lost and confused.
Yes.
That's when we need gratitude the most.
And this reminds me of a sermon where the pastor was talking about how gratitude isn't just about receiving blessings. It's about recognizing the giver.
Oh, that's good.
The Samaritan leper didn't just go on his merry way.
Right. He didn't just take the healing and run.
Exactly. After being healed, he turned back.
Yeah.
Sought out Jesus.
And
expressed his thanks.
That's beautiful.
It's like a beautiful picture of what true worship looks like.
It is. It's not just about asking for things.
Right.
Or going through the motions.
It's about recognizing the source of all goodness.
Yeah.
And responding with humility and awe.
It's about having a grateful heart.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that leads to another interesting point.
Okay. Tell me more.
That a lot of pastors brought up.
Yeah.
The connection between gratitude and humility.
Oh, interesting.
They were arguing that the Samaritan leper's gratitude stemmed from a deep awareness of his own need. He recognized that his healing was a gift, not something he deserved or earned.
It was pure grace.
Right, and that humility opened him up.
To what?
To experiencing the fullness of God's grace.
It's like that saying, empty hands can receive.
I love that.
Right, when we come to God with humility and gratitude, we're open to his love.
We're able to receive it.
Yeah, we're not blocking it with our pride or our ego.
It makes you think about how often we approach God with a sense of entitlement.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like we deserve his blessing.
Like we've earned them.
Right.
But the Samaritan leper reminds us that it's in acknowledging our need, our dependence on God,
that we truly find freedom and wholeness.
It's a paradox, isn't it?
It is.
The more we recognize our limitations, the more we experience God's grace.
It's like the less we try to control things, the more we're able to let go.
And let God work.
Exactly.
That's where true Sozo begins.
This has been
a
really rich conversation.
It has been.
I feel like we've only just scratched the surface of what this passage has to offer.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It is.
Like Luke 17:11-19.
Yeah.
We think we know it.
We think we've heard it all.
But then you dig a little deeper.
Yeah.
And there's just like all these layers of meaning.
It makes you wonder if that's true for like all of Scripture.
Oh, for sure.
What gems are we missing?
Right.
Because we're not slowing down enough to really look.
We're so busy.
Yeah.
We're just like rushing through, not really paying attention.
And that's the beauty of it though, right?
It is.
The Bible, it's a living text.
Yeah, it is.
It speaks to us.
Yeah.
In new ways.
In different ways.
Depending on where we are in our lives. What questions we're asking.
Absolutely.
Speaking of questions.
Oh, yeah.
There's one that keeps coming back to me.
Okay, what is it?
The other 9 lepers.
The ones who didn't return?
Yeah.
What happened to them?
What happened to them?
That's a good question.
And a lot of pastors brought that up.
They did.
In their sermons.
Yeah.
And some of them speculated that maybe they just got caught up.
In the excitement.
In the excitement of the healing.
Of being cured.
And they just kind of forgot about the source.
You forgot where it came from.
Or maybe they were just content with that physical transformation.
Right, just the outward change.
Without realizing,
the deeper meaning.
The deeper spiritual implications.
Yeah.
And it's kind of
It's a sobering thought.
It is a sobering thought.
It really is.
Because it challenges us to ask ourselves, are we settling?
For the bare minimum.
For those surface level blessings.
Right.
Are we missing opportunities to
to go deeper.
To express gratitude.
To connect with God.
Yeah.
On a deeper level.
And it also makes me think about community.
Yeah, oh yeah.
The Samaritan leper.
Yeah.
By returning to Jesus, not only showed his gratitude, but he also became part of a community.
Right. He rejoined the community of faith.
The other 9,
by
going their separate ways, they missed out on that.
They did.
So true Sozo.
Yeah.
It's not just an individual experience.
It's not just about me, myself, and I.
Right.
It's about us.
It happens in relationship.
Yeah.
In community.
We need each other.
You do.
We need each other to remind us of God's grace.
Yeah.
To challenge us to grow.
To support each other.
And to celebrate together.
Right.
When good things happen.
So what does all of this mean?
Yeah.
For our listeners?
For those pastors and Bible study leaders who are preparing to teach on this.
On this passage.
What's the takeaway?
I think it comes down to this.
Okay.
Don't be afraid.
To what?
To challenge the assumptions.
To go beyond the surface.
Yeah, to go beyond the obvious.
Encourage your listeners to think critically.
Right.
To ask hard questions.
To dig deeper.
And to really wrestle with this story.
Maybe even leave them.
With a question.
With that lingering question.
Well, about the 9.
And about the other 9.
Where did they go?
Where did they go?
What can we learn from that?
It's a powerful invitation.
It is.
To reflect on our own journeys.
Of faith and gratitude.
Exactly.
Because at the end of the day,
yeah,
this story isn't just about a miracle.
Right.
It's about a choice.
It is.
A choice between settling for superficial healing, embracing the fullness of Sozo.
That comes from recognizing and responding to God's grace.
That's good.
And that's a message that's relevant for all of us.
No matter where we are on our journey.
Exactly.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Luke 17:11-19.
We hope it's given you some fresh perspectives.
And maybe even some new sermon illustrations.
And inspired you to uncover even more hidden gems.
In this timeless story.
Exactly.